Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a very iconic piece of Chinese literature. Although it was written in the 14th century AD, a main source for the work was records of the Three Kingdoms, which was written in the 3rd century AD. Regardless, both works cover the history, events and key characters involved in the late Eastern Han Dynasty of China, and through the turmoil that was the Three Kingdoms period that followed it, from the Yellow Turban Rebellion in 184 AD until the unification of the country in 280 AD. A popular hack and slash game series set in this time period is Koei Tecmo's Dynasty Warriors series, and with today's review we're going to be looking at Dynasty Warriors Origins, the first main entry in the series since 2018. Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires is an expansion. For transparency, a copy of this game was provided to me courtesy of the publisher. I'll also apologise in advance for any mispronunciations, as I'll try to use the Mandarin Chinese pronunciations of names and factions. Dynasty Warriors Origins is unique in the fact that outside of an Empires expansion, for the entire game you're playing an original character. Your character, whom you can name, is a male warrior who awakens with amnesia and starts wandering the country. One day in 183 AD, while passing through a village, you notice the villagers are sick and hungry. As to mock them, a cart of food passes through the village, and as the villagers beg for food, the soldiers guarding the cart threaten them, but before they can act, they are stopped by a bearded man who declares that the food is supposed to be a gift for the people from the emperor. After exposing how the food was obtained, the villagers get angry and a boy tries to take some food from the cart. Before a soldier could hit him, you come to his aid and you dispatch the soldiers with the bearded man. As the villagers scatter due to more soldiers arriving, you and the bearded man are led away by a man with long hair who offers to help you escape after you fight your way through the village and the game's tutorial. As you leave the village and arrive at the guard post, you and the bearded man are met with a large number of soldiers. Before you fight them, the long-haired man from earlier arrives with soldiers of his own to help you escape. After escaping, you set up camp and the bearded man thanks you, introducing himself as Guan Yu. After finding out that you have lost your memory, he fills you in on the state of the land as well as the people joining a cult called the Way of the Great Peace. In the morning, the two of you go your separate ways, and a few months later you find that the cult Guan Yu was talking about have started a rebellion. This event became known as the Yellow Turban Rebellion due to the colour of the headwear the rebels wore, and this is where your adventure truly begins. Throughout your adventure you'll meet famous figures who will ultimately shape a part of China's history, and fight in battles that contribute to it, while trying to recover your memories and find your place in the world. But is this game any good? Find out in The Good. I really enjoyed the gameplay with its updated mechanics and combat. While you can still string combos using a combination of light and heavy attacks to defeat enemies, there's more layers of depth to Origins combat. I found the enemy soldiers were more aggressive when attacking you depending on difficulty, and they won't hesitate to attack you from behind either. Officers will have a fortitude bar represented by little shields that you will need to deplete first before they are briefly stunned, and this can be done by attacking them and hitting them with certain moves, or by parrying their attacks and counter-attacking, which will leave them open for an assault, with a special animation playing when the assault is powerful enough to deplete what's left of their health. The fortitude bar ties into the enemy force's morale, so the higher the morale, the more fortitude the officers will have. This can be reduced through completing certain objectives, or by using tactics where you can summon soldiers to perform certain actions such as a volley of arrows or a cavalry charge, which if used correctly, can do some good damage to an officer's health and fortitude. As you deal damage, parry or evade attacks, your bravery will go up. This is represented by icons above your health bar and can be used to perform battle arts and special counters. Special counters are to be used on certain attacks and will stun the enemy. Using battle arts or special counters over and over will increase their proficiency, and once mastered, it may get additional effects such as requiring less bravery or dealing more damage, to name a couple. Musou attacks return where you perform a special move to deal additional damage to officers as well as clear out enemies, and you can combine your efforts with an allied officer on the field if you're close enough and certain conditions are met. You can also enter Musou Rage, which will temporarily make you invincible, and max out your bravery, so your battle arts will deplete the Musou bar instead, which ends with you performing a Musou attack or an ultimate Musou attack if you've unlocked it. Later on in the game you can be challenged by certain officers for a one-on-one duel where you both battle to see whose fortitude triumphs over the other, with you automatically defeating the officer if you win. This is very handy for when the enemy has high fortitude, as this can save the hassle of whittling the fortitude bar down several times before taking them out in normal combat. Over the course of the game, your character will gain new weapons with 9 different types of weapons that he can use overall. As you fight with these weapons, their proficiencies go up, allowing you to unlock new battle arts and increasing your rank. As your rank goes up, so do your stats, and at certain ranks, you'll unlock an additional skill tree that you can spend skill points you receive from completing battles, skirmishes and objectives to further improve yourself. The other thing I really liked are the large scale battles. At certain points in the game, you will fight large amounts of enemy forces, and this can get quite overwhelming, in a good way, with the sheer amount of soldiers on screen at one time. While fighting large forces, officers on both sides may prepare strategies of their own, and your job is to prevent enemies from using theirs while protecting your officers while they prepare theirs by fulfilling the requirements. Origins does a really good job of managing to fit all these enemies on screen and making these large scale battles more impressive, and these situations are spread out enough so that they don't overstay their welcome. Not that I would have minded. Certain key characters have special boss fights too, which adds to the grand scale and awe that Romance of the Three Kingdoms is known for, and there is a sense of achievement when you complete these battles given the strength and scale of these characters. I welcome the changes to the game's combat as it's made the game fun and engaging. I also enjoyed the more in-depth look at the characters and story, and Origin seems to have found an excellent balance with story and gameplay. The game covers about half of the events of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and at certain points in the game you can complete battles for each of the three factions that will ultimately become those three kingdoms. At a certain point in the story, you will have to pick one of the factions that you will join for the remainder of the game. By playing as an original character with no initial affiliation, you can see the events of the story play out from an outsider's perspective while dealing with the subplot of recovering your memories, which I think has worked really well in its favour. The game can be played with English, Japanese or Mandarin Chinese voices, and I appreciate the use of courtesy names, especially with the Japanese and Chinese dub. A courtesy name was often given to a male as they reached adulthood and is supposed to be used instead of the given name by people born in the same generation as a form of respect. So Cao Cao, for example, has the courtesy name of Mong De, which is how he is addressed by his cousin Zahu Dun. When Guan Yu talks to you after the tutorial mission, the Chinese dub has him give you his courtesy name Yun Chang when he introduces himself. Women can have courtesy names too, but this was usually reserved for when they get married, and the name is generally used by their husband. As you complete the story, you can also get closer to the game's characters and form bonds with them. Characters may give you objectives to complete that may bring you closer together, such as completing certain objectives in battle, completing a battle itself, or finding items around the map. Objectives can be completed in major battles, or you can complete them in skirmishes that will constantly come up as you try to bring peace to the country. While you can get closer to the officers and contribute to the story, for the most part your actions don't heavily affect the events of Romance of the Three Kingdoms on your first playthrough. Key events will still happen, and even when you do alter fate, most of the game will still play out as normal, but it will set you on the right track to get a faction's true ending, which is a what if they came out on top over the other two after certain events. After completing one faction's story, you do get the chance to replay any battle from the game that you had completed, and events where you can alter a character's fate will be marked with a hint on how to achieve it. The game also focuses on your character recovering his memories with the help of a young doctor, and completing the missions to regain his memory will unlock skills that can help him in his journey. While I'm familiar with how things played out in the story and know what would happen, I found that Origin's approach was a fresh take which makes it good for newcomers while keeping it interesting to veterans and people familiar with the story. Of course, it's not Dynasty Warriors unless you talk about the game's music, which I, funny enough, barely touched upon when I covered Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. The Dynasty Warriors series is very well known for using a blend of traditional Chinese instruments with heavy metal and rock, and Origins is no exception to the rule. Certain battles have had their own themes too, and some of Origins soundtracks are new arrangements of music featured in previous Dynasty Warriors games, as well as its own compositions. And the music's really good at pumping you up while you're potentially killing thousands of enemy soldiers. My personal favourite track from this game is Siege It, Beat 'Em All, but I've really enjoyed the music of the series, and that's something I hope will never change. However, while there are things the game does well, there are things that don't do so well, so let's look at those in the bad. While I didn't personally mind playing as Original the character for pretty much all of the game, I do miss playing through the battles from start to finish as characters from the Three Kingdoms. Your character is generally given the freedom to act according to how the battlefield develops, and there are battles where you can act alone or with an officer as an ally. While you can't play as that officer from the start of the battle to the end, you can switch to them temporarily once conditions are met and become an absolute force of nature as you mow down enemy soldiers and launch a devastating Musou attack at the end that can potentially take out hundreds of enemies. Due to only covering about half of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, there's about 47 characters you can potentially form bonds with, and from them you can only pick 10 of them as partners that you can swap to, which really limits the game's potential. The game also lacks a 2-player mode where you and a friend can participate in a battle, and this would have worked wonderfully with one person playing your original character and the other playing the officer you have partnered with. This was a feature present in previous games, but I normally play these games alone, so it wasn't something I would have really missed, to be fair. Despite the game covering approximately 25 years of history, very few characters will change appearances. The exception to the rule being Guan Yu and Zahul Dun, though the latter's appearance changes for story purposes. Koei Tecmo have done similar to games in the Samurai Warriors series where characters age over time, so I think having them age and even potentially changing weapons or battle arts due to age and experience would have been a pretty neat detail to add in. I sort of wish the skirmishes had a little more variety to them. They're very good for completing objectives given to you so you can deepen your bonds with the characters in the game, but some of the opportunities rarely come up in skirmishes, such as winning duels a certain amount of times, or that one where you have to win them without taking damage. Or you can complete them so quickly you don't even get a chance to contribute towards them, such as using tactics. Even more so if you're told to get dramatic effects on tactics, which, on top of waiting for them to be available, require you to meet certain conditions for those effects to happen, such as being on higher ground and a distance away from the enemy to fire a volley of arrows. I think a better variety of skirmishes would have really helped, but I can at least say that it's great for mastering battle arts or increasing your weapon proficiency. Other than that, I think I'm done here, so let's wrap things up with the opinion. I really enjoyed Dynasty Warriors Origins, and I feel that this game is a breath of fresh air for the series. It's a good starting point for newcomers to the series, as well as being fun for veterans. The gameplay mechanics work well in its favour, and there has been a very good balance in gameplay and story. It's quite refreshing looking from the outside into these events as an observer before choosing your path. The game's music is excellent as always, and I really appreciated the rearranged tracks as well as the new ones. The only gripes I had involved wishing you could play as all of the other characters more often, the lack of cooperative play, and varieties in skirmishes to help complete objectives, but I feel that this is minor in comparison. I did run into the odd visual flickers, which I think come down to a shadow setting if I'd learnt anything from Wo Long, but overall, I highly recommend this game if you want to get into the Dynasty Warriors games, or if you enjoyed the Musou hack and slash gameplays of Samurai Warriors or Warriors Orochi. You could even consider the Empires expansions if you want to mess around even more with the events of the series. I am pretty interested to see where the franchise will go from here and how it can improve further. I do wonder if they plan to do something to cover the second half of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, so here's hoping. With that though, it's time for my rating. I would give Dynasty Warriors Origins some incense out of 10. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.